Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. As you see, there's a much different setting going on here today. This is Brooke. Who we have interviewed before. She's the star seed that we have interviewed here on the podcast, and would like to welcome her here today. So,
I would like to thank Chris for having me because the first one we did, I am technologically impaired and I did not have a microphone or headphones. And after listening back, apparently he was asking me questions that I rambled over. So, with being this close, he can just smack me if I overtalk.
kicking her under the
Yeah.
chair. Anyway, thank you though so much for coming in. I appreciate that for sure because we have a very interesting topic today, as always. But Brooke has, as you guys know, I've been struggling with these symptoms of dizziness and headaches, and it's been rough. It's vertigo is how it's kind of manifesting in me, but they're trying to they really can't figure out what it is, but either way, that Brooke, among several other of you, have reached out to me and have offered to help in the healing process. And Brooke actually, Brooke's a healer in addition to a star seed, and brought an aspect of healing that I was not very familiar with. And if do you want to explain that a little bit? And
Sure. Because honestly, this is the first time I got that familiar with it. It was doing what we did for you that brought all these puzzle pieces together. It kind of led me to now fully understanding how important that aspect of healing is. So it's a DNA healing. It's a DNA restoration. And my journey leading me up to here started with going through things when I was younger, having been diagnosed with mental illness, and which always blew my mind because I had a great childhood. I had wonderful parents, wonderful grandparents. I could tell you that I have zero traumas in my life, even up to the age of 42, that I have had no trauma. And so, in working for the school, and we start into this trauma informed, and I get to thinking, I'm like, just because somebody hasn't had something happen to them, there's a lot of us that have this trauma inside of us. And I didn't fully understand it then. Like, where does this come from? And the more research I did, and then after like doing, you put the puzzle pieces together and made me look into it more. So my Reiki master introduced us to a lot of different ideas. And it's like after that, you kind of choose which rabbit hole you want to go down.
yes,
And this is one that I had not given much to. And then all of a sudden, I realized that I think this is one of the most important aspects of healing is our DNA.
yep. I agree with you, and where it ties in, I feel like so often do we talk about, or do they, when they come through us, talk about the healing aspects and how when we begin to heal ourselves, it actually begins to heal the world. This is the level at which that healing starts to take place, and what Brooke and I have been discussing and have been coming to better understandings through, thankfully through their guidance,
Absolutely.
is that how important this DNA healing, or how effective it is, and how important it is through so many generations. And actually, if you could elaborate on that, we were talking a little bit about what where Indians believe, because we're a podcast that everything's all tied together, the different aspects and the belief systems of all these different. We've already gone through Buddha and Jesus, and now here's an Indian aspect that Brooke is going to bring to us right now, that she can elaborate on what they're thinking on how far this healing starts to go back, if you want to.
Yeah. So, we are all one. And so even the different things that I've looked at, for instance, the Bible talks about 4 generations of healing. I believe through my Reiki masterclass, we talked about 7 generations of healing. And it wasn't until yesterday that I found out that this belief goes the farthest back with the Native Americans. And they actually believe that to heal the energy in you is to go as far back as ancestors and all generations. So how I got the way I explain how the DNA works, and it came out the other day with my mom. There was a study, and I tried to find it for you guys because I believe it was a video, and I hope I'm going to explain it right, but just to get the idea that they took DNA and put it in two different rooms, the same DNA. Whatever they did to the DNA in this room, the DNA in the other room reacted. So they're like, okay, well, it's close. So through the study, they moved the DNA farther and farther apart. And they finally got to a point where it was so far apart that they realized that it's not going to matter how far apart we move this DNA, it's still reacting to the other DNA. Mm-hmm. And so it came out the other day talking to my mom. I was like, Mom, where's your DNA? And she's like, here? I'm like, okay, very good. And I was like, where else is your DNA? And she's like, in you? I'm like, absolutely. Who else? She's like, oh, in your kids? I was like, yes. And I was like, we go back to her parents. We go back to her parents' parents. And I was like, so that DNA is acting across the board.
And that's so, okay, so what she's saying there, I feel, is so important and ties into all of this extremely well in that how it does get passed down. So we all know that physical aspects of our DNA can get passed down, and they can manifest themselves in say, a form of cancer or a form of stomach issues. So we can see that we can see and feel that on the physical level manifest itself. But there's an emotional level to all of this, and that's what we're talking about right now. And that is so important to the healing aspect of things. Just because we are not noticing the healing that is needed manifest. Like for now, I was dealing with these vertigo symptoms. What we're not understanding when Brooke was doing her healing session on me, she brought up the aspect of me not healing from the feeling of not feeling the love being reciprocated back from my family, which is huge. And that's how all this was tied in, because I started to realize that my family has a belief system of you almost disregard these feelings that you have of unhappiness, or there's something's not right here. A lot of my family members will actually disregard that. They'll put it off and go, no, you have to act this way because that's what family does. And what we're saying here is that you don't have to.
Yeah.
And healing that begins to actually heal them. Is that not right?
Yeah, because now I believe emotionally there's different aspects. I believe in one aspect, like I said, when I looked into myself and gone, well, I had this perfect life. Where are these traumas and issues coming from? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I could have from my grandfather's DNA some of his trauma from the war that he was in.
Yep.
So that's how, it gets passed down. Mm-hmm. My mom has suffered, and I mean suffered greatly from depression. And, we constantly go, oh, what am I doing wrong? What, why me? But when you understand and you accept this aspect of it, mm-hmm. it just seems to make so much more sense.
Absolutely.
I was following up with something, but.
Well, I got something.
Okay. What you got? What you got?
So, okay. One thing that I have, I've worked with mediums before, psychics. And one thing that I have noticed is that there is a lineage. Like souls pick a certain lineage to heal from certain wounds. And those wounds come from this past energy. And that's what we are trying to heal when we go into this DNA type of healing. So I channeled for a psychic before where they said, hey, we picked this particular soul. Her soul was indicating that we picked this particular soul because of the lineage of her family. Now, if they are picking souls or human people, the souls are picking the human aspects based on the lineage from all these past lives of the family. Mm-hmm. Well, then that there is the opposite end of that there are healing aspects of that lineage that we must begin to take care of. And that's, again, how all this is so tying together. Yeah. And you guys see how, as the podcast has progressed, that this is all tying in.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and how healing is
No,
such
I
an
just think it
important.
was so crazy the day I saw you through your podcast dealing with like your headaches and everything. And then, when you're telling me you've been to doctors and neurologists, like right
Multiple.
away from being from the spiritual aspect, I was like, what are you going to the doctor for? Like, did you check yourself first?
Yep,
Did you put yourself in check? Did you look and see? Did you do a little scan of where could this be coming from?
Yeah.
So and he was like, what? He's like, well, I stopped eating red meat. I stopped, and I was like, no, eat your red meat. This is dead. This is something else.
Yeah, dairy. I stopped eating dairy. I stopped eating red meat.
Which is probably good. It's healthy,
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
don't think it was the cause of your headaches.
I still eat my sweets. I just want you to know my sweets are still there.
Oh yeah, the sweets.
Yeah, that's definitely coming up though. I know I'm gonna have to break that.
Yeah, I had banana pudding before I came. That was my breakfast.
So now there are a few things that I feel that that we can discuss if that's all right with you.
That's great.
And I know you have a few things that you want to talk about, but I know when you hear from scientists and stuff, they talk a lot about 2 strands of DNA.
Yes.
Now, from a spiritual perspective, though, there are 12.
Right. I believe there's even the double after that. But from the spiritual aspect, speaking of DNA, I mean, I have looked at scientific stuff and it just blows my mind. I mean, DNA you could study it probably for a lifetime
Exactly.
and not know everything about it.
Yep.
But my very easy point is the fact that they call something junk DNA. God don't make no junk.
Yeah.
So it's there for a reason.
Yep.
Whether it is to switch on different aspects of it or switch off certain aspects of it. But God does not make junk.
Correct.
So it's there.
Totally. Now, of the 12 strands, I did want to bring up just what. So it seems as if, and Brooke brought this to my attention today, that they are broken up into sections of 3, which make complete sense, obviously, based on the importance of the number 3, and it's tied to the Trinity, in my belief. You guys are free to believe whatever you like. You know this. So each aspect of these DNA strands, and what's interesting is I have done DNA activations on myself.
So have I. And
Right.
and they say it sits at the base of your spine.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point now, if I say DNA, that tingle starts right away.
Wow.
Just by saying, because I'll go, I jokingly do things. I'm like, DNA, activate, and I'll feel that tingle start in my spine. But I've also done some of the DNA activations.
Well, and that is an important aspect of all of this because we are going to get into different ways that you can activate it. However, Brooke and I are of the same mentality that there is no wrong.
Right.
Really, whatever you go ahead. What do you?
What you believe is what you believe. I'm not a wordy person.
Yeah.
So it's like if somebody is doing something and it's these big, great, fantastic words, like that's fun, but I also believe that if your intent is to activate your DNA, you can simply ask. Just simply ask. Now,
Exactly.
that's the key.
Yep.
The key is that we do have to ask.
Totally.
Well,
I always
free will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I always encourage people that the intent has to be there, and then there has to be a movement in that direction. So the movement of asking is important.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into other ways too that you can add to the intent and then the asking, because there's more that you can help. There's more like when you bring more attention to it, obviously that.
Yeah, and I like both. There's times that I'm at home and it's evening and I'm just like, do I want to meditate? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I do like to sit down and I can lay down and put on my DNA activation. I do one, and I'm sure there's different ones. The one I liked was, I believe, brought through a channeling by Saint Germain. And I first heard it with Rasa. Meditations by Rasa.
Okay.
Is
Not
where
familiar.
I first heard it. I just love the way she says telomeres. Like her voice is really cool. But I came to find out later, the original man that got that message. So, and she was using the message that he got directly from Saint Germain.
Interesting.
So, but that's like, it's a really long one. It just feels powerful.
Yep.
But at the same time, after listening to that, if I'm driving in the car, I can just go, DNA, activate. You know?
I love it, and that's so true. It really is. People like don't. This is not rocket science at all. This is all spiritual beings just helping us get to where we're meant to be. And when you put that intention there and that focus, it's going to happen. And I don't want to speak for Brooke, but I definitely just say believe that it's happening, and that is an extremely effective way of it happening.
Absolutely.
So before we get into that too much, though, I do want to, of these 12 strands, I do want to break it out real quick. They're broken out into sections of 3. So 3 strands are tied to your physical body, 3 strands tied to your emotional body, 3 to your mental body, and then 3 to your spiritual body. So it's definitely, I would say, it's effective to just say, DNA activate for sure.
Yeah.
But I wonder if, if you started to focus upon each individually and ask for healing aspects, no, there's no wrong. So
Right.
it can only help.
Yeah.
If you actually focused on each individually and allowed for, more attention to be focused on the one specifically.
Yeah.
You
And that's
know?
why whatever you feel guided to.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's a cool point to break it down.
Yeah. So we did discuss how the DNA is passed, though. And we said the physical aspects. You can see how they manifest themselves through personality traits, through abilities, as we discussed with the psychic, through physical ailments, through like cancer, predisposition to cancerous cells forming in your body. These are all passed through the DNA. So your spiritual mentality is no different. And that to me is wow.
Well, the spiritual one is one I think about a lot because, some of the ways I think, and I'm like, where did this come from? Did this spiritual aspect start with me or did it go back? But I look at my dad and his way of thinking now, and he's been gone for 20 years. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't give as much thought until somebody's gone.
Gotcha.
And I look back at certain aspects of his personality and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he was there.
Yep.
Like he got stuff. I look back to my grandfather on my mom's side. He was magic. He was pure magic. And I'm like, man, I really, I might have got some emotional stuff sent down, and I might have got some physical stuff and some mental stuff sent down. But when I look at the spiritual stuff that I know I got sent down, my grandmother, my dad's mom, I did not get to spend a lot of time with her throughout life, but I took care of her while she was passing. Came to find out that that's where I came from. Like of all the people I was close to here, she was the one I spent the least time with, and spending time with her as she was passing, I'm like, man, that's she's where I came from. Like she's my people.
Yes.
Totally. So it was pretty cool.
That is very, very interesting. And I'm sorry, because as you were talking, when Brooke first got here today, I saw what looked like a small apparition just walk right by us, right? And I'll tell you what, since you did that, so when she was doing her healing on me, and it was healing aspects of the DNA, it stopped on the third eye. That's where she seemed to get the most reaction. There was a lot of stuff coming through. And since since she has done that, I have actually been seeing a lot more. A lot more, yeah. And these apparitions are starting to be more common than they were. I've seen them in the past, but they're happening more.
Yeah.
With more frequency. I'm seeing a lot more. Well, as you were talking, the dad part, I started to get communication that that was your dad that I saw and that he was here when he was. So I just wanted to let you know, like, wow, I'd never gotten
Yeah.
communication like
That
that.
is cool because it's always my grandmother that shows up, and she's the one we talked about being part of my team,
Yes.
and it's always her. I've never talked to anybody that's gotten the dad vibe,
Yeah.
so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I channeled for Brooke before and I don't recall he wasn't brought up then.
No,
Yeah.
it's never like through my life I was kind of close to the men in my family. Like I just they were the ones that really like emotionally gave me what I needed.
Yep.
And so I tend to give a lot of props to my dad and my grandfather. And then unfortunately, sometimes I realize I leave some of the women in my family out. And then come to find out, my mom, who I just said, I realized how much we are alike. I have her eyes, I have my
Yep.
dad's eyes. And she's the one that is apparently part of my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that team, that goes back to, us building our spiritual support team. And a lot of our loved ones, when they pass, do come back and start to help us develop. So other aspects of the DNA other aspects of the DNA that can affect or damage or heal our DNA are more than just the lineage of our family. It definitely can be affected by environment because obviously we know. So physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, they are the representations of the 12 strands of the DNA. So we know that any aspects of those conditions around us can begin to affect
Right.
that DNA, whether it be healing or hurting. So and I think the shedding, we discussed shedding. Have you ever worked or heard much about like the shedding of layers? It's basically, as you're healing, you're beginning to.
Not in those terms. When I was thinking about DNA and I was just thinking about healing in general, and I feel like we are in a time right now that healing, it's always important, but I feel like right now we're in a time where healing is more important than ever before. And so there are so many aspects of healing, but I have been thinking about like the layers. Like I feel like when you're getting into DNA healing or you're getting into the DNA restoration, I believe that's a deep healing.
Yeah.
So it's like when I'm just doing Reiki, it's like, oh, you have a stomach ache, you have a this, you have a that, that's, I feel like more surface stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, I believe the DNA is probably the deepest healing
Totally.
you can do.
So, well, I feel like, all right, so what you were just saying there with the Reiki helping with the bellyache and help with the headaches. And that's all tied to the physical.
Yeah.
To the physical aspect of the DNA healing. But then as I'm believing as we discuss this that these emotional, mental and spiritual aspects of our healing come through, like as we are shedding layers, as we're going through this awakening process and we're beginning to shed layers, it is in essence a form of healing because it's all these built up traumas
Oh yeah.
that have taken place.
Yeah.
And so the deeper you get, you're going through all these different layers of the DNA strands as you're shedding these layers. So you're going through the physical, and that might be the first. I don't know, just saying, but that might be the first layer that you go through. Then the emotional aspect, and the mental aspect, and it could be reversed. I'm sure it's not the same for everybody.
Yeah, but no, like I said, I've noticed that I feel definitely in a time, and I've noticed the last couple years, when things are in us, the first step to healing is being aware that there's something that has to be healed.
Yes.
You have to either, whether it's admitting it or finding it. Yep. And I believe the gift that we've been given, and it looks like a curse at times, but in the last couple of years, I believe these things have been surfaced for us.
Yep.
And I've noticed a lot of people having a really hard time these days because they don't know what's going on. They just know they're feeling all this negativity and things coming up, but they're coming up for us to be able to let go of.
Exactly.
They're surfacing for us.
So I completely agree. It's the earth.
Yeah. We just have to recognize it and go, okay, it's time to let this one go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we are healing as individuals, but the earth is as well.
Yeah.
And its layers are shedding. Now, is that what you're referring to? I just want to make sure we're on the same page. When you say we as a collective, are you referring to earth or are you just referring to? Because when I
was talking, I was thinking about we as a collective. But yeah, I believe right now, we and the earth are going through
Yeah.
a process.
Yeah. I guess when I think of we, I think of, or when I say the earth, it's kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
like a collective of all of us, because the earth is shedding her layers. We feel it. So we pick up on that energy, and then it starts to vibrate in us.
Yeah.
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 Because one thing that I did learn is, through all of this, is that, the earth has a frequency, and so do we, and it's basically the same frequency.
Right. Yeah. The earth is 7.8 hertz, I
Correct.
believe.
Yeah.
And I follow for fun sometimes the Schumann resonance. And just this year alone, it has spiked to, and that's the amount of light and vibration coming in.
Exactly.
So this isn't just my talk. This is
Yep.
actually scientific.
Yep.
Light is, vibrations are coming in. It's measured. It's the military uses these machines to calibrate their equipment
Yep.
at 7.8. So they have to measure, the vibration so that they know. And when it's measured just this year, there has been spikes like there's never been before.
Yes.
So that is that light coming in to shed this darkness.
Yeah, to heal. And that's how we tie all this in together, is that humans are experiencing their own forms of healing during these times, but it could be the direct result of the earth raising in not necessarily raising in vibrations, but shedding layers, exposing more energy. And thus we feel it in different ways, and we are then healing, is how I'm trying to tie all that in together.
Right.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure that was. So now what we've tied in the earth, its frequencies, and how that can affect us and our healing process, because we're being exposed to, obviously, the earth's energies. But then how are ways that we can begin to go through these processes of healing, and healing these different levels in which the DNA is interacting with us. We've discussed intent.
Yep.
But go ahead.
Well, intent's the key.
Yes.
Intent is the key.
Everything.
And like we were saying earlier, sometimes people are into more or less. And well, you're going to go ahead and talk about the crystals and oils and things like that. So I'll let you start with that now.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, okay, as we discussed, intent is so important, and putting motion in that direction. We've discussed different aspects of healing. I've had a podcast on going out into the environment and making sure that we begin to connect with Mother Nature again. And then diet, what we put into our body. But then there are other tools that we can use in addition to food and what we're intaking. I mean, I definitely eat my sweets, but I'm cutting out the ground meat, the red meats, the dairy products. Slowly but surely, they're getting me to become vegan.
Well, that's good for you, because I'm not. I can't even get myself to drink a glass of water.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
Coffee.
No kidding.
Time
That's
I get
hilarious.
up, time I go to bed. Even if I get thirsty, I'm like, I don't want anything but coffee.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good, man. You got the intent there. That's awesome.
I think my lineage, I think, goes back to like sugar plum fairies.
I don't think I'm far. I'm off too far from that, because I eat enough of them for sure. So, yeah. So some of the tools that we can use, and we've discussed crystals and oils before, how the crystals, the oils, already carry a certain vibration, and vibration and frequency are very important, because we are all that's all we are. We're energy, and we've discussed the 12 universal laws of energy, which we are governed by. Therefore, when we are discussing healing aspects, these frequencies can only help increase our depending on the frequencies at which we're using. Yeah. We know Earth goes at the 7.83 hertz. The love frequency is 528 hertz. So if we begin to subject our body to more of these frequencies, like right now, one thing that I did learn is that city life, why country living is so helpful. The city, we are bombarded by these different energetic fields, electromagnetic fields caused from our cell phones, our computers, all the electricity in the area. And when you go back into it, actually begins to shield us from.
Not only that, but just being with people, I want to say it's something ridiculous. Like a person's energy goes out about 30 feet.
Yes.
I mean, so you're at the mall, you're walking through all kinds of energy, to where, at least I know on my property, I've got my friend behind me that I'm pretty good with her juju, you know what I mean? My neighbors, I'm cool with. So I feel like we got a good thing going on there.
Yes. That's a great
All my trees, all my plants.
It's a great point. And all I was saying was that it can affect you. So the more that we take that time to just be around each other and allow your body to be receptive to these energies, it's helpful. Again, it's putting motion into that intent of raising the vibrations, of healing. Crystals, and cut me off anytime you feel here.
Well, no, I was just thinking because you had mentioned the hertz. And I know that, somebody may hear this once and go back and, something about hertz.
Yeah.
I simply do this. I Google. I get on Google and I go, I put in DNA activation, videos, and I just kind of scroll until one feels right to me.
Yes.
Whether it was the
Absolutely.
color on the thing or the timing being whatever it is that
Yep.
resonates with me, I'm like, okay, I pick that one, because there are all different hertz, but if you look, especially into binaural beats, it'll tell you exactly the hertz you want to listen to, and there's all kinds of stuff out there. So if you don't remember what we said here, just simply Google, DNA activations or binaural beats for DNA.
Yep. Yep.
So.
And the thing with Google, though, it does compress a lot of its sound, so you don't necessarily get the hertz that's particularly indicated in the videos, because I do a lot of binaural beat meditations, and I do use the frequencies at which they say they represent, but because of the compression that YouTube uses from a technological perspective to save space, you don't necessarily get that hertz.
Right. I went to a very legit sound frequency healer, and matter of fact, the headphones he puts on are not over your ears or in your ears. They're on that bone in front of your ears.
Wow.
And that's where the vibration is taken in.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So if you want to get real deep with it, like I think to listen to binaural beats, definitely have your headphones on. Through the internet, might not be 100%, but yeah, you can get deeper with it. You can really look into buying, whether they have it on CD or getting the special headphones that sit on the bone and send that vibration through.
Yep. And basically what we're trying to get across here is that, that there are many different ways to begin to activate the DNA and to begin that healing process and what is needed. It is all part of that, the shedding of layers and tapping into these multiple aspects of the physical body, emotional body, spiritual and mental. It's all tapping into that and healing those layered aspects of each of them. And crystals, sound, frequency, oils are all used to help raise frequency, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. As you heal, you begin to raise your frequency, because anything that needs healing is in a low vibrational state.
Right. And I say, like, it doesn't mean you have to run out to the crystal store and the oil store and go out and buy your pile of stuff. Like, you'll kind of be guided there. It's like I said, you start off on the DNA rabbit hole. You'll eventually just be led to these different sources and different methods, and you will end up with some crystals and some oils and some rocks. And
it's a great point that Brooke makes there, because I'll tell you, I've done DNA activations on myself many times. I go in there every now and then, and I'll just do it again to continuously put effort into that healing process, because I know I'm still healing from obviously generations. But what I never understood fully what exactly was transpiring when I was doing that. What was actually happening? And it was actually through, and that's divine timing.
Yeah.
I wasn't meant to know all of it.
Yeah, I mean, that, like I said, as long as it has been this thought, and I look back at where it started building, that day was the day that it all came together.
Yep. Yeah, and that's you are the one that brought it up in me, you
Yeah.
know. Just like, okay. And I'll tell you what, after she did that, the amount of information flowing to me about this, just different things that started to resonate and make a whole lot a lot more sense to me. Terms I've heard before that I never really gave much thought are now coming back and making tons
Yeah.
of sense.
Yeah.
But it was just timing. And when that happens, it is proof that you are healing because now your body is ready and to experience that on another level. In my opinion, you know,
Yeah.
that's how that's yeah. So be aware of that and don't be frustrated if you aren't necessarily called to do anything right now. Like Brooke said, you know, when you feel it, just go with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I've been aware of, the effects of DNA for probably 2 years now, but it wasn't until the other day that the importance of it really smacked me in the forehead.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now it's something that I'm probably going to pursue even more, and I definitely will pursue more.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been called now for quite some time to really change my diet. Now, the meat thing I've changed that's close to 2 years ago now. The dairy I just changed a couple weeks ago as a direct result of this head thing that I've been dealing with. But they are talking to me about other aspects that I do need to change. I feel vegan coming on, although I'm not a fan of it. I know I think they want me to go there. I've tried it before and it was pretty good food, but I just couldn't stick with it. It just didn't resonate with me at that time, and I feel like it's coming.
I've been trying to eat more. I mean, everything I eat is out of a package. So package of crackers, package of cookies, package of a cheese stick, and so I've at least been trying to incorporate a little bit of water and maybe an apple or something. And so I keep buying all this fruit and then I keep throwing fruit into the garden at the end of the week. I'm trying.
One thing that I've realized, and I think you and I have talked about this before, is how important water is to our bodies, or to the connection,
Right.
I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, important to our body. Obviously, it's like 75% of our body or something like that. But so it is really important. I try and drink about 3 liters a day to help me with my connection. But oh yeah, I love that water.
My body's going to go in shock at the first water it's had in a couple weeks maybe.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my
Let's
gosh.
see how it likes it.
That's so funny.
I mean, what? Every time I take a sip, I'm like, why don't I do that more often?
Yes.
It
'Cause
is
it's
good.
so refreshing.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't have time.
Yes. Okay, so we talked about the crystals, the oils, and how they help raise the vibration. We talked about the sounds, the binaural beats on YouTube and other apps that you can get out there. The diet also could play a factor in all of this. It's a part of, obviously, the physical aspect of the healing. So stuff to be aware of, the changing of the environment and being around people that are of good energy. And you don't necessarily have to go around a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
But just being around people that are of good energy
Yeah.
who really, bring out the best in you is a very, very helpful.
Yeah. I mean, thought changing. Yeah. I think if you're going to start, thinking about just healing, you want to start at the easiest place to start is simply changing your thoughts. You know, it's like I found myself somebody go, "Oh, how are you today?" Things could be better. Now it's like, "How are you today?" Super duper, couldn't be better. Every day's a holiday, and it's, faking it till you make it at first, and to even get you on that right mindset of wanting to heal.
Ladies and gentlemen, that statement that she just said is so profound. It's one of the aspects of the courses that I offer to people in changing that mindset and beginning to work with that mental aspect of this healing process. It's something that I do.
Of all the healing that I've done, I thought that was the most noticeable.
Yep.
Because I remember starting with just a mantra. I would
Yes.
just feel.
Yep.
The worse I felt, the more I would say, I am light, I am love, I am peace, even though I was not feeling any of those. And that's kind of how it started. And along with that, I started just being more mindful. Instead of rushing into work, I went, slow your steps down, take a deep breath, look at the sun, so that's kind of how it started. And I just started, if I said something negative, I had to cover it up with something positive.
Yep.
And at first it was very conscious effort. And it happened pretty quickly that before I knew it, I had completely renewed
Yep.
the way I was thinking. And that was probably the quickest. Like it started off with some effort and practice. But once you get it, you pick up on other people too. You'll hear somebody say something like, oh God, don't say that. Don't say that.
Yes.
But you know, by saying that, your brain believes what you tell it.
Exactly right.
You tell your brain you're stressed, your brain is stressed. You tell your brain it is just happy and calm and lovely, your brain believes what you tell it.
That's so profound, and a huge, I mean, we say all the time, there is energy in the words, thoughts, and actions. And if your thoughts are thinking something low vibrational and then your words are speaking it, there's a lot of energy there. So if you could actually begin to change one, I'm working with my children on this right now. If you can begin to change one of them to raise that vibration, the other one is eventually going to follow suit.
Yeah, so that's why I say
It's
for
huge.
some people, DNA, if you start looking into it, great. But it may not be your first step.
Yep.
Like I said, if I think about how long it took me to get to this point, maybe there's some other steps before that. And just be guided in whatever you're feeling like looking into. But yeah.
But these layers that we're shedding, these healing steps that we're taking, are all part of this. All part of this DNA and this lineage of healing that we must begin to heal from as we go throughout our life and we begin this awakening process. You know, we are basically those. The individuals in the middle of this lineage that is okay. Now the healing begins. Like our souls started out young, and it took them a while to begin to grow. But in that process, they developed a lot of low vibrational thoughts and things that we need to heal from.
I have noticed when I started healing certain aspects of myself, I noticed a difference in my children.
Yeah.
I noticed a difference in my mom. My mom's not very aware, so she doesn't see the differences, but like I see them. And from where she started years ago, it's huge.
Yes.
Where she is now. And I'm just like, because I used to fight with her and I used to have a hard time. And I started, I have to take care of myself.
Exactly.
The way I'm treating her is not her problem. It's my problem. And I started working on myself. And then we just got better with me realizing, me treating my mom like I should treat my mom. Totally. Yep. It started there, but went on to me being able to heal myself. And I am seeing the healing I'm doing to myself affecting my mom in a super positive way.
These are just real life scenarios of how of their communication coming through and them telling us it will begin to literally heal the world. Yeah. This is how it happens.
Heal
right here.
Yourself, heal the world.
Exactly. It's so important, and that So, thank you. That's all. This is all great stuff, and hopefully you guys are beginning to see that and how this is all tying in together, and why certain things throughout your family might not necessarily be understood. And that's because you're here to begin to change that process within your family. So understand your part. I get that message a lot too. There's a reason that you are here.
Yeah. I mean, I believe if you're not aware, you're not aware.
Yes.
My mom is just not aware. Wonderful. She is great in so many aspects, but on this level of things, she's just not aware. So it's like, if I'm the one that is aware, this is my responsibility.
Yes.
I feel like the healing of my DNA chain on back, I feel it's my responsibility.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, in this lifetime, I totally get that. Yep. Now, one thing I do want to address, and it has come up a few times, and interestingly enough, just recent, I ran into a woman. I saw an apparition walk right by us as she walked. She was a nurse. I was working with a chiropractor, and I am starting to feel better, guys. Nurse walks into the room, And no kidding, saw an apparition walk right in front of me again. And I'm like, whoa. And at the exact same time, I heard mother. The word mother came in. And I turned to her and I obviously asked her, hey, do you mind if I ask you a personal question? I go through my line of questioning before I even get into all that. But I tell her what just happened. And she's like, oh my gosh, that is extremely significant. Well, re- long story short, she indicated there's a lot of issues with her and her mother. And I asked her if I could do some work on her remotely. She says, yeah, I go home that night. I do some work on her. Now, I don't even know her last name. I didn't know anything about her other than she had a fractured relationship with her mother.
Yeah.
That was it. That's
Yeah.
all I knew. That night I went home. I was doing some work on her, and I call her the next day and say, okay, I'm getting pushback from your bottom three chakras. So you're definitely not grounded. You're emotionally driven person. You don't know how to receive love, and you're not very confident. Is based on what I was getting back from just the meditation that I was doing on her. She says, "Yeah, that's all true." My point here is that I asked her, okay, there are different things that we can begin to heal so that you can start to move up, because she had an extremely strong intuitive mind and connection to the divine, which is what I was picking up. She
I
confirmed
was just
that.
saying, usually it's the opposite. Usually I find everybody's really clear at the bottom
Yes.
and block the tops. That's, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. But so the one thing that she brought up though was that, and I found this to be very interesting, is that she goes, I'm actually scared to feel it again, because she knew intuitively as soon as I said we can begin to heal that, she goes, yes, but then that means I have to feel it again, and I don't want to. And that's
Yeah.
a lot of you guys might feel that out there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. When it comes to healing, you have to be ready.
Yes.
There are things that we hold on to, things that at one time did serve us, whether it was this protection from, abuse going on in our family, whether it was a wall we put up. There are things that protect us and take care of us, but you get comfortable with those things.
Totally.
And there comes a time in your life where they don't serve you anymore. It's not doing any good for you, but for some people, it's really hard for them to let that go because it was a part of them for so long.
Yep.
But part of the healing is letting those aspects go that don't serve you anymore.
Yeah, it's huge. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if she's even going to go through the process, because she needs to work on that mind. And what Brooke was saying earlier with the aspect of fake it until you make it, it's a large portion of this in the beginning. And I'm hoping that this girl does, or woman, I should say, I'm sorry. I'm hoping that this woman does begin to go through the process, because I know it's needed for her. But I know a lot of you guys might be feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
Don't let the light and the love guide you, because as we were saying, there's a reason you're here. It's an important one. And if you can overcome that and really begin to get into this healing aspects of yourself, and the tremendous impact that it can have on this world, are huge.
Yep. I hope everybody is ready, but I know it's the process of getting ready. I have friends that, for my own fun benefit and for free, I've offered, like, hey, let me Reiki you. 'Cause
Yes.
I find out that every session, it's not just for them, it's for me too.
Yep.
I feel like I'll learn something more every time. I feel like I get a different feeling, and I like the experience. I have friends that really go, you know what? Don't touch me. I'm perfectly fine.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so, hopefully they are fine. I don't know a soul on this earth that does not need a form of healing.
Yes.
I don't care what level we're at. We all need healing.
Yep.
And so, but there are people that are very comfortable with everything just the way it is, and they don't want healing.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a huge difference between suppressing emotions and actually healing from them. That's a huge part, and we'll leave that for another day for sure, because that's a huge topic to get into. But just note that it is something that is a large portion of this, and you want to make sure that you're not suppressing and that you are actually healing. And when you're healing, you're feeling it. But we'll get into that another day. If you're okay with it, I think we're about at that time that I'll go ahead and channel if you're cool.
Awesome.
All right. I appreciate that. So I already am, as always, feeling Enoch. My children, blessed are we to have such opportunities of divinely inspired communication. It is an honor for us in the spiritual realm of heaven on earth to be present with you at this time. We are grateful beyond words measure to hear the amount of love that is being transpired to all of the audience members of this podcast, for there is extreme amounts of love and true sense of care that is being expressed through these electrical devices, microphones. There is so much love to be held here on this planet, and yet so often do the humankind hold on to the lower vibrational aspects of actions, words, feelings. When the decision is met with intent to rise above these aspects, you will begin to experience a shift in your mental capacity, your ability to feel more love. You begin to use and leverage the law of attraction, my friends. But there is a sense of action that is required, as also indicated by such laws of energy. And this is important to understand, for the law of attraction is very important and key in the concepts of what is being discussed at this time. The healing aspects of the human body, mind, soul are part of, yes, the DNA strands that have been discussed, but also a part of the Mother Earth concept that is bringing more and more light to this realm. It is needed, and the layers that are currently being shed by Mother Earth are an important aspect to the humankind, for it is allowing more light to be shed upon this realm, not just the individual, but the entire realm, planetary realm we speak of. The physical aspect of this realm is what we are referring to at this moment. This is not an aspect to be overlooked, my children. It is quite vital to the importance of the human body that Mother Earth begin and continue to ascend as she is. The frequencies at which humankind are being subjected to when light is present are great in frequency and important to the amount of love that the physical body can begin to allow to come forth. The physical nature of the human body is one that is required to heal much, for this will also allow for more light to be felt and experienced within the body. As more light and love are experienced within the physical nature of the body will begin to rise mentally, spiritually, and physically as well. We speak of this to emotionally. We speak of this to bring light, shed light, and new concepts to the humankind that are important to understand when beginning to heal through this process. It is not one of ease, it is one of great discomfort, but it is one that is necessary, essential to the understanding that you are healing so much more than just thyself. It is not just thyself that is being healed, my children. It is much more. It is Mother Earth, in addition to the individuals that reside on this realm and in the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm, humans that have passed on into the other realms are also healing from the aspects of your healing. And this has been discussed, my children. We encourage you to resonate more with the aspects of healing and allowing for the emotional aspects of these healing processes to be felt truly and then shed once felt. We are so grateful for the opportunity to communicate with you today and in this podcast, and are grateful for our friend Brooke and her presence here today. We encourage you to continue the aspects of healing that you are currently engaging in, and thus we encourage you to return and shed more light on to these aspects for all to listen and hear. We are grateful for your presence and grateful for the attention and attentiveness of the audience members. Thank you and good night. Enoch speaking. Thank you, Enoch, as always. And thank you, Brooke, too, for showing up. I really appreciate
Oh,
that.
anytime. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, not any time you're like over an hour away, but anytime. Maybe like once a month.
We can always do Skype, too. That's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Yeah, well, as long as I get all the gear so that I can hear you when you're trying to ask me a question.
Yeah. Well, thank you, though. Seriously, I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. And thank you guys all. Appreciate you. Love you all. So grateful for you guys listening in. And hopefully you picked up just a little bit more today about this process and the different ways in which we can heal and how deep it goes and the different layers in which you are healing. So thank you. Take care and have a great day.